Hello, everybody, and welcome back. I'm Jeff Jones, and with me today is
Jack.
Jack. Nice to see you again. Jack is coming along with the ride. He's a tried and true guest that I've had on the show for just forever.
Oh
I
yeah,
gotta
yeah.
I gotta learn how to mute my YouTube thing again because I want to stay up to date with the chat over here.
Yep.
But yeah, Um, so this kind of, I'm glad. Thank you for everybody who is out there and that joined us for the little premiere. That one was pretty short, only about half hour. We kind of just breezed through the first episode, um, and so it seems like everybody out there has already seen this documentary. Um, or at least it was like 80% or 80, most of you have seen it. So I guess that's kind of what we're looking for, moving forward is that, next week we're going to talk about episode 2. So if you haven't seen this documentary yet, try to search it out, watch episode 1, get caught up, and then watch episode 2. And we also would love to get your recommendations for documentaries to cover. Although it's just me and Jack, like in these pre-recorded premieres, or maybe we'll have guests in the future join us. Um, but really, like I kind of wanted to have this as a movie club, documentary club. So everybody goes and watches it on their own time, and then we meet and we talk shop and we talk about the documentary or whatever else is relevant, things that relate to the documentary. So at this time, I am going to put the invite out. I'm going to put you can join in. Um, Maybe I'll post it in from here. You will be able to join us. If you click on that link, you can join into the live stream and join me and Jack, and we will talk about uh, what your opinions are on it, what you felt of it, how did it make you feel? Were you angry? Like I think at the end of the that episode, I asked you guys, did any of you think it might have been Aaron or Denise or both? And going back and looking at a couple of the comments, it seemed that a few of you were like, yeah, I kind of thought that maybe they were both in on it. I forget whose comment it was. I apologize, but someone said in the comment that after seeing her arrive in Huntington Beach, Denise, that is, after seeing Denise arrive in Huntington Beach, your thought was, oh, I think she might be involved. How often do we hear, Jack, of people being released,
Never,
like 48
never.
hours?
Yeah, it doesn't work. Generally, these kind of cases they end up bad. And it was a body.
Well, and that's what the law enforcement was threatening Aaron. Well, we're not even looking for a live Denise anymore. We're looking for a dead Denise and stuff like
That's right.
that.
That's
Yeah,
right.
so
Just to add one more thing before we get too deep into
sure.
talking about this. This documentary, docu club, or however people want to kind of ascribe to it or think about it. Think about, I mean, yourself included, Jeff. Think about documentaries as a whole, overall, and think back 10 years ago. Now, of course, we're approaching the time that When Making a Murderer came out in
Right.
December of 2015. So that's going to be 9 years coming up here soon, a decade. But, you think about these kinds of documentaries. It's like this next one, we did, we talked about the other night when we recorded the next one. And that was a pretty old one as well. And I say pretty old, it's not like Jack, back in the 50s or anything, but think about how these, especially after Making a Murder hit, how these kinds of true crime documentaries are they're pretty common now. There's so many cases out there, and there's two things. Number one, there's a clear need for reform in our justice system. Clear,
Yeah.
it's so obvious, and it can't be any more obvious. But two, I think that along with all these documentaries that are out there, we have to be careful about what's in these documentaries and to, things that might be a little weird and questionable, we have to look further because as we know, there's only so much can get packed into a documentary, right? So
Such a great point, and plus there's so many questions that we're kind of left with, even after this episode and definitely after the whole documentary, where we're trying to wonder, what's the story with Andrea? I think I said that in the comments. What's the story with
Oh.
Andrea? And then we have some other, we talk about the FBI agent in the next episodes. What's the story with him? There's still some things that are left that we're still wanting to know about. And
one of the big ones, one of the big ones. I'm sorry for interrupting, but I have to say this. One of the big ones is, how did this guy get in that apartment without breaking the damn door down, breaking the law, or smashing in the door or breaking a window? How the hell did he get in? And it's never explained.
It is such a great question, and I think that we'll have to pose that question to our first guest, club member, our first club member to join. We have our first club member to join, and that is inexplicably Susan. So welcome in, Susan.
Yay!
Welcome to the show. You're number one. We'll see how long you can hold that. Just kidding. But for now, you're definitely number one. Although I did hear someone else pop in, so I'll ask you that question, and then we'll get to the next club member, and that is Susan. How did the kidnappers get into the house without breaking and entering?
Didn't they say that he came in a window? Gosh.
No.
I don't remember. There was no sign of breaking and entering? Did they just leave their door unlocked, maybe?
That's right.
Well.
Is that what it was?
I have what's that?
We only have theories at this point.
Yeah, we don't know. It's never revealed how. It's never revealed how this.
Okay.
Yeah. It's never revealed how this guy got in. But I have a theory. But we'll talk about that later, another episode or two.
Well, maybe we can ask the question again. And someone else slipped in through the back window, and that is Katie Did It. Katie Did It. You're the number 2 club member. Thanks for joining. Hey, Katie.
Hey, now.
Hey, Kate.
Hey, can I answer that question?
You should.
I think, I thought at the time when I thought the ex-girlfriend was involved, that she had the key. That she supplied the key to whoever helped do that thing.
I think it's a pretty reasonable conclusion because, and this is something that, did the investigators ever ask? Well, did Andrea still have a key to the apartment? We don't know. That's something that was never covered. So as far as I know, that's a really good theory.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of that angle.
Did you change the locks after you broke up? I mean, they didn't ask any of that.
They did not. So, like Jack said, there are some things that in most documentaries leave out. Like, no documentary has everything. We've said that time and time again, and we got to dig a little bit. So that's definitely, if I was going to dig into this case, that would probably be one of the first things that I'd want to look into. Like how, and it kind of haunts, like we'll come back to that a couple times as we watch more of the documentary. But how do you get into that place without, obviously they did it quietly, otherwise they would have woke up. So yeah. I just leave it open to just comments in general about episode 1, either Katie or Susan, if you have anything to add.
I thought it was interesting when was it Mustard that asked him, did you love her, Denise? And he said, I do love her. Yeah, I guess he was trying to get him to speak in past tense.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have kind of a funny story about this documentary. I had just listened to a podcast about it. I just came across it, and I don't even remember who did it. But I had listened to it, and then Kay had asked me if I had watched this show, maybe like the next day or very soon after that. And I said, oh, yeah, God. I had watched the first episode, and I said, oh, I don't know if I'd watched it or not. But I'd watched a part of the first episode, and I said, yeah, really bad acting. Those guys are guilty and blah, blah, blah. Because of the podcast I had listened to.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't realize that podcast was only about episode 1. I thought it was the entire story. so then I ended up watching all of it, and I'm like, oh hell, I had that wrong. Somewhere I'm confused. Well, it's funny. But if you only watch the first episode, you do kind of, have doubts about these two. I mean, it's a crazy story with this guy playing the music and, the goggles and all the weird stuff. It's like, it's outlandish.
Well, yeah, somebody breaking into your house, they shine a strobe in your face, wake you up. Sorry, this is the wrong house. You're supposed to be the other girlfriend. What? It's not supposed to be. That was another element. Yeah, it's another element here.
Like and then you put together the idea, like, what if it was Andrea's key? And then now we're talking about Andrea, right?
Absolutely.
It's pretty wild. It's hard to wrap my head around it.
Well, then the links.
It's another area that hasn't been properly, looked into.
Maybe the perpetrator somehow stole her key, or
well, the problem, that's possible, but again, for me, this brings in the problem of how did he know any information about who lived there? I don't care who it is. He starts throwing out names, and he names the ex-girlfriend. I mean, what? Where did that come from?
That's wild.
And then this guy, he takes other steps, feeds them a bunch of sedatives so they'll be calm, knock them the hell down.
What did you guys think of that?
NyQuil and
that one, Benadryl or something.
What did you guys think of that? Like,
never heard of it.
Sedation.
Never heard of it.
I mean, that was weird, but installing the camera was even more weird to me.
Yes.
Like, he needed a ladder to do that too.
Wait,
and what was the purpose of installing?
Yeah, how would that camera work? Was it on like 4G or 5G or something? Like, how would? Yeah, that's a really good.
Sure, you had an app for it. Probably.
You'd have to plug it into their modem, or you'd have to have it working on,
some hotspot. Yeah, some kind of hotspot or something. Yeah.
Yeah. What year was this? I mean, it's
2015.
Was it like 17, 15? Yeah. So couldn't do like today.
It was far less common. Kind of yeah, far less common in like a hotspot in that time frame. They had them, but they were, I think, pretty rare.
So that's like another aspect of the case that I would like to know the answers to.
Yep.
There's some things that are still kind of out in the ether that this documentary doesn't explain. That
no,
nobody seems to be. I don't want to jump too far ahead, but it doesn't seem like anybody is. This case is done. It's closed, right? There's no active investigation still going.
Right. But the stuff they found in his place where he spelled everything out, maybe if you did a good look at those lists of stuff, maybe you'd figure something out. I don't know.
Oh, the things that were. Oh, the things, from when they at the end of or I forget. I'm not exactly sure
Yeah.
what you're. Oh, okay, yeah.
When they found all the stuff, yeah, like the lists he had made. Like, I guess I'm jumping too far ahead. I'm sorry. It's hard to
Yeah, you
just stay in
wait till
episode
the
one.
end, Susan.
No, it's okay. I think it's fair enough. As this is like the first time we've done this, I didn't know if it's better to do it per episode or if like we should just cover the whole series in one episode. So, maybe in the future we'll just do it all in one and then we can comment about the whole thing. So I wasn't sure, but yeah, feel free if you want to comment about. You can just spoiler alert to anybody. I think that's fair. I think most everybody here has seen the whole thing.
Now, I can't remember what they recovered from Aaron's house. So were all of those things at his house that he said were there? I don't remember.
Is Aaron the guy that did it?
No, Aaron's the boyfriend.
Yeah, Aaron's the boyfriend.
He is a suspect.
Oh,
and I think it was almost. I think it was almost immediately.
So the goggles
tape, right?
and the goggles and the camera, and I mean, they tested his blood. I can't remember if he had. And that, is it weird that the person told him exactly what they were giving him? Hey, I'm giving you diazepam and whatever else he said.
Right.
It is weird.
He guessed. I think I just saw that part where he kind of had he said, I'm not sure if they gave me NyQuil or diazepam or what it was, but yeah, and then later on, as it unfolds, we find out that the kidnapper was kind of forthcoming about some of his information. We talk more about that in the next episode, but everything about it is strange, from how it started to the method. I mean, like I said in the premiere there, I don't want to give anybody any criminals any good ideas, but blindfold, sedate your victim. You know what I mean? Like all these things, right? The music,
to
calm them down or whatever, or to keep them, like I think I mentioned, just to like remove their senses from the scene. Like if you have loud music, you can't hear what's really going on. Now you're drowsy, you can't see anything. Like it's already very well thought out. Like they've done it before,
When Ryan's the boyfriend, right?
Aaron.
Aaron's the boyfriend.
Aaron. When he first gave his statement, did he say that there was more than one person that did this?
Yeah.
That's what the kidnapper told him, because I think that's what the kidnapper indicated to him, that there was more than one. And that comes up again later.
Later on we find out. Later on we find out that he says part of the ransom is that we are a company, or we're a group of people who kidnap. We're professional kidnappers, right? So it was never hidden. The fact was never hidden that he was alone or was he with someone. He had always claimed that there was more than one person. And we hear in the next episode, the only corroborating evidence we have for that, I think, is that Denise says she hears a car pull up while she's kidnapped. We didn't hit that in today's episode. We'll talk. I mean, as I said earlier, I don't think we're spoiling anything for anybody. But so other than that, there's no like hard evidence that there was more than one person involved. But that was the story from the kidnapper and from Denise. And
I think it's all just so weird because
did Aaron say that?
Right.
That's a good question. No, go ahead. I'm thinking out loud. I apologize.
Well, I think the whole thing is just so weird because the perpetrator is just so weird. You know, he's an odd duck and very intelligent, I think.
I think so
But
too.
just
Yeah.
a strange
yeah.
guy.
So very prepared, but yet a little
I know.
sloppy when it came to some things.
And the other crimes that he had done, I guess he was working his way up to kidnapping, but
Wasn't it interesting that Mustard told him that he was a serial, what'd he say? Serial kidnapper or murderer? What'd he say?
What did he say?
to Aaron, you mean?
Yeah, he said, you did, I don't believe you. I don't believe you at all. You did this. And you're just a serial, whatever he called
I
him.
think he called him a serial killer. Actually,
That's what I thought he
now that
said
you say
too.
it.
What?
Yeah. What?
Okay. All right. Well,
Yeah. Colonel
I guess
Mustard.
that's how you get your serial people.
He was pretty hard on him, it seemed, and at one point Aaron had said that he was losing touch with reality a little bit, and in one of the next episodes we talk about this more, but he even said that, man, maybe I'm schizophrenic and I did do this and I just don't remember it, or I'm a mental patient and I just don't remember it. Like, that's how, we had a bigger discussion about wrongful confessions or false confessions is that you start
that happens more
to
often
question
than
your
not,
own
I
reality.
think. Yeah.
Well, what was it, an
They get you there.
18-hour interrogation? Although at the very beginning he reminded him that he wasn't detained, he was free to go anytime. I don't know if that changed at any point.
Have we heard that before?
Yeah.
It sure didn't change anything.
Yeah, I mean,
I
and I know
thought
we
that-
talked. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I thought Aaron's demeanor in the interrogation was a little strange as well. I mean, he was, considering what had happened, he just seemed really kind of calm. I mean, not just totally freaked out.
But the effect of the drugs I gave him, or whatever the hell that guy gave him, Benadryl, or
Yeah, that could be. But I mean, you can't really blame the cops when they first hear this story for having a hard time believing it, just because it's so strange.
yeah, but to
But-
completely lock without proof to completely lock in on it.
Yeah, that's too far. I mean, at least.
Well, and we found out later they put his phone in airplane mode, and him telling him this kidnapper is supposed to call, but they put his phone in airplane mode and put it in the locker.
Jesus. Yeah. Yeah.
That
Just lucky
airplane
that-
mode thing is pretty wild, because if you're Aaron, you're thinking that's the only line of communication that the kidnappers have, and wouldn't if law enforcement is like honest brokers, they'd say, well, the story's pretty wild, but we can't lock in yet. Have the kidnappers tried to contact you yet? Have you checked their did you check his email? And they turn his phone off? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
It seems like they don't want the other information. They only want a confirmation bias. They only want information that fits their narrative that Aaron killed Denise.
Well, I think they were just pretty darn sure of themselves.
Yep.
They do that a lot. It's called tunnel vision.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. Just going back to
This is
tunnel
what
vision
I
that we
think
talked about.
happened.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No chance he's going to get a call. There's no kidnappers. You know.
It's interesting how some of these detectives that have been detectives for a long time, they don't care what the truth is. They're just interested in closing a case real fast, it seems like.
Doesn't it seem like that? I agree that it just seems so many times that they just want to close the case. And it looks like Zapper Cop, welcome. Thanks for joining. Maybe he can comment on that, or his experiences in law enforcement. How often does that happen? That people just kind of want to close the case, or are we kind of misunderstanding that? But it did seem in this case that they just wanted to close the case. They wanted that confession so they could move on to arresting Aaron.
Well, I think especially if they get it in their head that they know what happened. They can figure it out without doing any investigation. Oh, this is obvious, kind of thing.
Right. This guy did it.
Yeah.
And he's telling us this fantastical story to, hide his guilt.
Yeah, I wouldn't buy in it either, Zapper.
Yeah,
it's so crazy. It would be hard to believe.
In the beginning, yeah, that's why I said in the very beginning, I was like, I didn't know if the boyfriend did it. It was a crazy story.
And the night before they're talking about, he's still kind of interested in his ex, and
yeah, Andrea.
It's a little much to and so I guess from that point of view, if we put ourselves in law enforcement's position, it's so hard to believe that you're like, come on, dude, what'd you do with her?
Yeah, give it up.
But then they go and say, okay, no, he didn't kill her. This is all a hoax. So they just kind of move the goalpost a little bit.
They did. But, even what makes it really worse is even when other information began to come in, they still wouldn't do anything. That's what really makes this story so much worse. And they, in fact, went a step further, and we heard in that clip you played, they squandered valuable resources.
And she backed up she said the same story he did.
Yep.
She confirmed everything he said. But,
yeah, but remember, this guy, once before he released, he said, you can't tell about the, me assaulting you. You can't say I was in the military. Yeah, so she didn't. Right. Because she was afraid her family would be harmed. That was another aspect of the case.
True.
Gonna let you go, but there's conditions surrounding it, and she, in the beginning, stuck to those conditions.
Yeah. And then the notion of the money that was never delivered, and then they release her anyway. Yeah. Right? It was all about money, apparently. This was supposed to be about Andrea. Okay. Then it's about money. And then it's not about money anymore.
It's about sex.
I think it was about rape, actually.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, I said sex, but that's actually what I meant.
That's right.
That was his MO anyway. That's what he had done more than once.
And he's so dumb. He accuses him of stealing drugs from the hospital to experiment. These are physical therapists, not nurses. Physical therapists have access to things like medication for ionophoresis or something. That's
a ton of available. They're not barbiturate stuff,
So ridiculous.
I mean, my mother was a physical therapist. She never had the authority to prescribe anyone. I guess we don't really know how their situation. I'm not familiar with what kind of organization they were in, but yeah, that seems like a real stretch. But
They don't pass drugs. It's not their job. They don't do
That's
that.
right.
Yeah.
You could recommend, hey, we need to, this patient is suffering, go see the practitioner, and then they get you something. But physical therapists are more about, body movement and helping people rehabilitate. I'm going to read a comment from Zappercop. He says, exactly. The facts provided were so outlandish as to be anything but a well concocted story. Yeah. And you wonder if that isn't kind of part of it. Like, isn't that kind of part of, as a kidnapper, if you're like, if we make this story sound really crazy, the cops won't even believe it? Does that benefit the kidnappers a little bit?
Probably, because those stories that have all those extra details are the ones that you're shaking your head, no, that's not right.
Yeah, if it's hard to get your head wrapped around it.
It's like, you're lying. You gave too many details. I mean, if someone tells me a story and they just keep adding details, I'm tuning out.
Is that right? Every time?
Yeah. I don't know. It starts to feel like a lie.
Starts to feel like they're, yeah.
Also,
well,
depends on the person too.
I was sedated. I don't know how long or how strong that medicine was that they gave him. Drugs that they gave him. But we kind of questioned what took him so long to report it to the cops. Well, number one, he was sedated. He probably slept. He probably had to sleep it off. And, I guess that was something that they should have, maybe they did and we just didn't hear it, but they would have drilled down on, well, what did you do between 2 a.m. and 2 p.m. when you called us? Like, what exactly did you do? Did you go online and read about kidnapping? And I guess, that would have filled in some blanks for us, but it just seemed like they were more focused on trying to get him to confess to what he did so they could move on, they could go have dinner or whatever they were trying to do. But one thing I wanted to mention, and this comes up in another, Jack and I worked on another documentary, and we were talking about polygraphs. And they never released, even when I saw the interview with Aaron at CrimeCon, they still had not released the polygraph results to the lawyers or to anyone that claimed that Aaron failed it miserably. Well,
yeah.
I mean, on face value, what does that sound like to you guys?
That they told him he failed it, but he didn't really fail it.
He didn't really fail it, right?
And where have we heard that before?
Yeah, where?
I mean, and I to point out, I think we all know this, but 99% of the cases don't go like this. 99% of the cases, I think, we don't hear about because they are above board. But the ones we do hear about, that we make but it does seem that when we talk about these cases that go wrong, that is one of the things we keep hearing over and over again, that they either lie about the polygraph or they use it to deceive. And, it's not admissible in court, if I'm correct. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe polygraphs are admissible in court.
They are not.
All they are is like an indication tool. Like, well, if you think this guy's lying, give him a polygraph, see how he reacts just to the idea of taking one. Is he ready to take it? Is that when he lawyers up? Because that would just give you a little bit more, a direction to follow. But if someone fails a polygraph, it doesn't necessarily mean they did it.
That's
Otherwise,
right.
it'd be admissible in court, right?
Yep. So many wrongful convictions are just like cookie cutter, read technique stuff and false confessions.
Well, yeah, that's kind of what that Detective Mustard did. He after he listened to Aaron for I don't know how many hours it was, but he comes up and finally says, "I don't believe you. What did you do with her? Where's she at?" You're not telling the truth. You're not being truthful. Blah blah blah, and doing everything he can to push this guy into a statement because they don't have any physical evidence. That's typically this is the catch-all right here. We don't have really any physical evidence to prove this guy did anything, but let's push him hard and get a statement, because once you make the statement, you're screwed. You are done. They will arrest your ass and throw you in jail.
Well, and then even when she comes out of the woods and she's okay, they're like, no, we still got him for the murder.
Right.
The whole media storm was just a
Right.
nightmare.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Zephyr Cup says, I was completely taken by surprise how this all ended up. I did not see it coming. Yeah, no worries about jumping ahead. We kind of been jumping all over the place, trying to stay focused on the first episode for those of you who are invested in that. But spoiler alert if you have anything to add to it. What did you guys think about? We were talking about not really knowing who may have been involved. In the beginning, Denise's parents weren't quite sold.
No, they weren't. That was another aspect and another layer.
And correct me if I'm wrong. It seemed like they hadn't even met him before.
I wonder if their daughter had mentioned. I don't. It's we don't know how close she was to her mom, but a lot of mothers and daughters talk to each other every day, and they're really best friends. I wonder if she knew that he still had feelings for his ex-girlfriend and things like that.
That I'm not sure of. I do know that she did say that they knew about him, but I don't think that they had actually met him yet. I think that's what they said.
Yeah, I don't think they'd met him, but they said that they trusted her. Like, I think I remember them saying, well, all of her boyfriends in the past seem to have been good guys, so we kind of trust her to pick a good guy. If I remember correctly?
Yeah. And I think his parents had met her once, hadn't they?
Yes. That sounds right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And they liked her.
That scene you got up right there, that's where she comes walking out of the woods basically after he had let her go, and
that's right.
She walked to her dad's house.
I'm curious what Sapper thought after this scene where she shows up at her parents' house. Who did
400
you think?
miles away.
Yeah, who did you think was involved when that happened, Sapper?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Try to get him in here if he's free, but otherwise he can put it in the comments if he's still out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good question because, I mean, I'd already had problems, as I said before, because when the kidnapper came to the apartment, it's supposed to be Andrea, but, we'll just take you instead.
And, another thing we didn't know is, did she say, oh, take me to my dad's house then? Or how did he know where the dad lived? Because she seemed surprised to be like, shit, I'm on a street that I grew up on. She didn't see that coming. So the kidnapper also knows where the dad lived?
That's why I thought the ex-girlfriend was involved. I thought the ex-girlfriend had probably been to the parents' house before. So if she had, hired other people to do this, she could have told them where the parents live.
But this is Denise's. I guess she knew Denise because they worked together.
Oh, shoot. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm thinking backwards.
Okay. It's hard to keep it straight sometimes. I'm totally with you. But, how did they know to drop her off at Huntington Beach? It's just, and she's like, oh, I grew up here. What the hell? I'm near my dad's house. Okay, I'll walk to my dad's. Wild.
Oh, there's Sapper's answer.
Yeah, at that point, he says, I thought the setup between the two. I agree. I was at that point, too, where I was like, they're trying to, they're in it together. I don't know how or for what, but, and then what else does Sapper say? No random money was paid, or no ransom money was paid. There was no motivation to release. Yeah, like we said before, like, have you ever heard of anything like that? I haven't.
Well, keep in mind also,
How kidnappings go. Yeah, exactly.
The-
You don't get anything and then you release them.
this is 400 miles, and you think about that's no small distance. You're talking about what
Huh.
7 hour
8
drive?
hours.
Yeah, 7-8
Yeah.
hour drive, depending. That's a pretty good distance to cover, man. I mean, and we don't get a lot about that time frame or being in the car. And did they? That's another thing. Did they ever say that they recovered Aaron's car? I don't think. Did they? Or I just I just don't remember it. I don't remember them saying.
I don't remember them talking about
Um,
recovering his car.
Yeah.
He had a stolen car. The Mustang was a Mustang
Yes, that's
Um,
correct.
that he had her in, a white Mustang. But yeah, did he take her car?
He took Aaron's car.
Drove off in that, and then must have gone and must have switched it
Mustang.
out.
Must have dumped that one and then switched out. Yeah.
I'm sure they recovered it, but they
Which is,
they
like,
don't really talk
so-
about it.
So
It's
how
also
did-
really weird
Yeah.
that the
Yeah, think about
girlfriend
they had to
paid
get
the
to
FBI guy.
like the kidnappers had to get to their house after dropping their car off, this Mustang off somewhere not near the house, and then walking or getting dropped off, and then taking Aaron's car and then switching out the cars again, like driving to the getaway car, if you will. It's just it's hard to wrap your head
That's
around that.
true.
They walked up to the place or they got dropped off to the place, which then would mean there's more people involved. Yeah, starting to
That's a
think
good
Andrea.
question, Jeff.
I'm involved in this now. Now I'm starting to think Andrea.
I don't want to jump too far ahead, but at that cabin where they were at, where the assaults took place, he gets a visit, and we don't really know who they are.
Right?
I have my suspicions, but I can't prove it. We'll get into that during the next one. But that was another thing that really stuck out and bothered me. And after digesting this a little bit, who are these people? And and we don't really ever get an explanation.
There's a lot of unanswered questions.
Absolutely, there are a lot.
Well, to me, that's indicative of a poorly ran investigation, or the documentarians didn't pick it up and cover it. One of the two. That's what I'm saying. You have to be careful about what we say, depending on what's just in the documentary, because as we know, there's always so much more. So I say that guardingly, kind of like his car. We don't really have an answer for it, but anyway, I don't want to jump too far ahead.
Yeah, I'm just in the background kind of looking up some things, like how long does it take to get from Vallejo to Huntington? I was just going to check that out on the map and see. Driving wise, maybe
By the way, Sapricot said he's at softball, I'm sure, with his daughter, so he can't jump on right now.
oh, no worries. But thanks for joining anyway. And then there was this other case, Sherry Papini, that it looks like I don't recall just mentioned. And so I was trying to get the dates right. This case, the case that we're talking about, American Nightmare, happened in 2015. But in 2016, Sherry Papini, an American woman, disappeared on the November 2016. So like a year later, in Redding, California, which I believe is in Northern California. She reappeared 3 weeks later on Thanksgiving Day, having reportedly freed from her captors, still wearing restraints on the side of the County Road 17, about 150 miles from where she disappeared. Now, this one is the kidnapping hoax that it was found out that she hoaxed. So I guess this does happen. So
She
I
went
mean,
and stayed with her ex-boyfriend or something like that. Said it was 3
Crazy.
Mexican women or something. Yeah.
Crazy. Oh my God. I never heard of this case.
Yeah.
That is insane.
she was charged with mail fraud. Let me see if I can get to the timeline. Okay, so he could not find his wife. He eventually used the Find My iPhone application to locate her cell phone and earbuds at the intersection of Sunrise and Old Oregon Trail, about a mile away from where they live. This is in Shasta County. I've actually been to near Mount Shasta. She said she was held by 2 Hispanic women who took steps to keep their face hidden, either by wearing masks or keeping her head covered. Pepini was branded on the right shoulder during her captivity, but details of what the brand included have not been revealed. God, she really went all in. If it's a hoax, she branded herself.
Yeah.
That's wild. So when investigators questioned Sherry later, she claimed that it looked like a verse from the book of Exodus, but she did not provide any solid evidence behind her claim. According to husband, Sherry was physically abused, had her nose broken and her hair cut off, and weighed 87 pounds when she was released. So at that time, the sheriff said it was still an active investigation, and they were looking for a dark-colored SUV with 2 Hispanic armed with a handgun. Detectives had authored close to 20 search warrants, including some in Michigan, examining cell phone records. They were all over the place. So Pepini was found with both male and female DNA on her. Neither have matched her husband. The FBI ran it through and found no matches. It was reported the DNA found on her clothing matched that of an ex-boyfriend, James Reyes, who confirmed that Pepini stayed with him at the residence in Southern California during the time she was allegedly kidnapped. So the boyfriend turned her in, I guess. Wow. So, that's a wild one. Maybe that'll be the next one that they do a documentary on, but
She got 18 months in prison and fined $300,000.
There you go. Yeah. So she definitely.
Holy crap. Well,
she's in a halfway house as of 2023.
I can't say it's not undeserved. You don't pull that kind of crap on society. You just don't do it. Right?
Well, there's an example where they could have used that quote. What was the quote? Misuse of communities,
county
resources,
county resources.
County resources. Yeah.
So I guess that makes sense here. So in a way, I'm like coming down on law enforcement pretty hard by saying, how could you just fall for this or whatever, or this never happens. No one's going to hoax themselves. No one's going to kidnap themselves. But then here's an example right here, a year later, where it actually did happen. But it seemed like in this little, at least on Wikipedia, we don't know the whole thing, but they said that they ran they executed 20 search warrants, even in Michigan. They were, all around. So they had thought that it was a credible, I guess she was disappeared. That's why, because she didn't, she was gone for months, right? So I guess that's why they felt it was worthwhile. But
right, yeah,
that's a good question that Zapper asked. How many resources were wasted in that case chasing a hoax? Yeah,
sure.
Hopefully, it was somewhere around $300,000, but I'm thinking it's probably more.
I like Cherie's question. What did American Nightmare leave out?
Great question. We've been hitting on that a little bit.
Sound like rats.
Well, I mean, that's a pretty rude claim. No, I'm just kidding. To sound like Ken Kratz. But a lot. I think, that was one of the things that we've been kind of mentioning through this episode 1 is that we don't know, like how they got in so easily. We didn't hear about that. There's a lot of backstory about Andrea that's left out that I would have liked to known a lot more about Andrea, like how their relationship went, where she was during this time. Why wasn't she kind of questioned harder? They were looking for, you. Why would anyone be looking for you, Andrea? What, you know what I mean? Like that was an angle that left out a lot for me.
The fact that she had dated the FBI agent.
Uh-oh. Spoiler.
Well, yeah, that's coming up. That was kind of what I was alluding to earlier about Andrea and this
Cat's out of the
FBI
bag.
agent. It's God Almighty.
It's also strange.
It was actually worse, but we'll get more into that next time. Jesus. Again,
Yeah.
it adds another.
Sorry.
It adds another
Spoiler
element.
alert.
It adds another. Yeah, it adds another element.
I mean, it's out now. You might as well just, touch on it, that it comes out in episode 2, and we'll talk about it next week, that the FBI
Ex-girlfriend.
averted in episode 3. Oh God, we might really be going ahead. But anyway, we'll give you a little bit of
I think it might be 3.
cliffhanger for you here, that it comes out that the FBI agent that is assigned to this case previously dated Andrea.
The ex-girlfriend.
So the suspect dated, in their mind, the suspect Aaron dated Andrea. The FBI dated Andrea. Well, who else dated Andrea? You know what I mean? Like, not to be mean. Like, I'm not trying to be mean. I'm
The
just saying,
perpetrator.
like, how can they not be putting her under more scrutiny if she was supposedly the center point of this case, of this abduction? Then why isn't she being investigated a little bit more, or at least being questioned a little bit more? I know they did have her in and they interviewed her. I'd like to know. That's something that it left out to ask Sherry, is really stuff about Andrea, more of the interrogation with her or the questioning of her.
Yeah. There's a whole nother story behind this. This whole story.
Yeah, I really do. I think that there's a lot to that could have been tracked down, that could have been, looked into. What else, anything else you guys can think of that was kind of left out of episode 1 that you would have liked to know more? Or
Well, I think we've covered the bulk of it, but like I don't remember if we did talk about it some, but I think they could have made or extended this another episode or 2 and filled in some of these blanks. Maybe they did it on purpose. I don't know. But I would have liked to have seen more of these other elements explained, because it leaves big holes for the viewer, and I have a problem with that. If there's material out there, documentation out there that explains, or at least for the most part explains these really pertinent questions, case questions. Some of them far more than others. Again, how did this guy get in? Did he have a key? I think he did. I think he was provided that key by, well, get more into that later in
go ahead.
episode 3. Well,
what is your theory?
The ex-girlfriend's dating the FBI agent that's involved. So to me, there's something going on there against Aaron and potentially even Denise. I don't know. And I don't know if there was this FBI agent knew about this guy, had contact with him, or Andrea did in some capacity and set this up. This came up. I don't know. It's a theory. I'm not really one for way the hell out there theories, but this guy got in that apartment somehow without breaking a window or a door, and I suspect he had a key and got in. And then we get into this visit at the cabin by a couple people that Denise doesn't know who it is, but she can clearly hear other voices. It's not just the guy that did it, that she's been around.
And
So
I think at this point, we can take her word for it. You know what I mean? She's been correct on everything else. I don't know why
That's
we
right.
would think she would lie about that. I'm going to
That's
say
right.
there were other people.
That's right. So who are these other people? Was it Andrea and the FBI agent? I don't know that, but I suspect it was. I just do. But again, it's just a theory, and that's why I'm saying I just wish that they would have taken a little more time and maybe another episode or two to fill in some of these blanks, because I don't like these gaping holes, these rabbit holes that we can't seem to get out of. So that's my 2 cents.
Any other theories?
Makes sense. It makes sense to me, Jack. It's a good possibility, anyway.
I think that FBI agent, which we'll talk more about next week, is definitely something. Like there's something there, and I think I talk about this, Jack. When we talked about it, it was like, okay, so if this FBI agent somehow knew someone in, was there more than just this FBI agent involved? Did it stem further? Did it go?
That's
And
right.
this is just pure speculation, but law enforcement was so quick to call this a hoax, and they weren't looking for her when they could have been looking for her. There's just so many questions that arise. That how deep could a conspiracy go?
Well,
and
did this
No, what
FBI
do you
agent
know? Still don't
did
know
he
what
im-
this is all about. We don't know what the
Right.
motive was.
did he influence Colonel Mustard there, the detective?
That's a good question.
Don't know. Yeah. So
Possible.
Anyway.
And he and Andrea broke up because she cheated on him.
Yep.
Did she cheat on him with the FBI agent, or was that a previous guy? Or
I
That's
don't
a
think
good question, man.
we don't know.
Did she cheat on
Right.
the FBI agent too, and that's why he wanted vengeance on
Right.
her? We don't.
possibly.
So I
Maybe
think
with
that's
him.
probably
Broke
my biggest
up. It-
black hole is Andrea.
It sounded like he broke up with her, right?
Because she
But
cheated.
Aaron-
I think so.
Because
Yeah.
I think that's right.
But
Yep.
he still was crazy.
And they all
about
work
her.
together, and they all work at the
He
same
couldn't-
place.
Yeah, and they all worked together. Crazy.
It's like so much like that, and then the FBI agent. Like I wonder if the FBI agent had been like, yeah, I'll question her for you. Like I'll do the questioning of Andrea. That would
Yeah.
be wild, right? Like at that
I mean-
point,
My
you
fucking-
dated someone
I
involved
can
in the
read
case.
his report.
Don't you have to remove yourself from that case if you're that FBI agent? As soon as you hear her name come up and you
Yeah.
go, oh, I dated her, I have to find another agent to handle this one.
To me,
course.
immediately. I don't know their policy, but I think that would be an immediate thing. You can't be involved. I mean, you can be involved, but you can't be involved with her or anything about her, because you have a personal relationship, and it could
With
legally.
interest.
That's right. It's a conflict of interest.
Yeah, a lot to be determined. So, what were you guys? We've kind of been through. I think we kind of been through it. I think we've kind of said our piece about episode 1, but we'll kind of go around and give your last kind of thoughts, and people in chat kind of give us your last thoughts about it. Before I do that, though, just to remind everybody, you should watch episode 2 before next week, and we'll be back to talk about episode 2. The other part was, please give us ideas for a next documentary to cover, because we would love to hear which ones you think are the best ones, and we'd love to talk about it. Maybe one of you out there has a documentary that you really like to talk about and that you want to join us. So put those in the comments, put those in the chat, let us know. But We'll go to Jack first, and just what were your any wrap up comments you'd like to make?
Well, I think episode 1 was a good intro. It covered a lot of ground, and of course we talked about so much that it's left out. But it opened this up to a really strange series of events that were really kind of unbelievable, especially at first. But the documentarians, I don't know if it was on purpose or not. They start introducing things pretty quickly that raised questions that said, okay, this guy's really not lying. He really has told at least part of the truth. But then, of course, the script gets flipped, and the cops say, well, they were in on it together. Well, what's the motive for that? Anyway, I thought it was a good intro that really grabbed you, kind of by the cheeks and said, you need to watch. So with that said, episode 2 is next week. We found out so much more.
Yeah, it really
Thanks,
starts. Thank you, Jack.
Well, yeah, and thank everyone in the live chat that's joined. Yeah, and definitely give us ideas. There's so many really good ones out there about documentaries. I don't know how many have seen The Jinx. I know that's a favorite of many people. There's so many good ones out there. I just threw that one in because that series has been updated. There's a part 2 to The Jinx. There's a couple episodes already out, and those
I watched episode 3 today. They're really good.
Oh my God, they really are good.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, that's all I got. Peace, everyone. Thanks. And tornado event has been updated. It's now been extended to 8:30 p.m. here. So.
Oh Lord.
Well, it's not doing anything here now. It was raining like hell. It was raining like hell earlier, but now that's all quit, and it's kind of quiet.
They came close to you. You had them surrounding you, kind of.
Well, I do know. With that said, in Kalamazoo, like I was talking to you about earlier, there's a huge FedEx building there. It's been destroyed. That was earlier, a few hours ago. It's been destroyed.
Your package isn't going to make it on time, huh?
Yeah, I saw a short just a short video of it, and it is a disaster. They'll be.
How far is that from you, Jack?
Probably 30, 35 miles. Not too far, but not real close.
Yeah. Yeah, it was scary.
Yeah, it was.
We
anyway,
got it down
thanks
here
everyone.
Too.
Safe for sure.
Right. Yeah, be safe. Be safe, Susan. You too, Kay.
Yeah, you too, Jack.
Oh yeah, it was wicked yesterday.
Yeah.
And Susan, what do you have any wrap up comments for overall? I see a comment from Zappercott. Maybe you can address that too. He thinks it would have going to be a financial motive. What do you think? Was there a motive, or what are your overall thoughts?
Well, I don't think that he was a particularly wealthy guy. I mean, he probably had decent money, but he wasn't like a millionaire.
Yeah, it's 15,000. Why that number?
What it was they asked for? Yeah.
Yeah, it was only so like that number. Is it because it's low enough where you think anybody could kind of scrounge that up quickly, and then just get it in and get it out and get it, or like 15,000? Like for some people, it's life-changing money, but for someone to kidnap someone for the price of a new, of a used car, basically, right? Like.
Well, maybe Andrea knew that he could probably come up with that and that it would hurt him. Maybe. I don't know. It's so weird.
It is.
It's so funny, when I watched part of it and I shut it off because I just thought they were really bad actors. Like when they were being interviewed and they were sitting there telling part of their story and stuff. I just thought, because I had this impression from that podcast that I had watched.
Oh, that it was all fake.
Yeah. And I really think that some of that I must have gotten distracted or something. And, didn't listen evidently real closely. Or maybe I would have known she was only talking about episode 1. I don't know. But
No,
yeah. But I still think their whole kind of demeanors are just kind of odd to me. But it's a true story. So
yeah.
yeah, it really blew my mind when I found out that it actually had happened. It was crazy.
I agree. Oh,
Anyway,
Separate-
thanks for doing this, Jeff.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Thanks for joining. I hope you enjoyed yourself, Susan.
Yeah, I did. It was fun.
I hope you can come back again. And I just wanted to hit a comment from Sapper Cop says he meant that I thought the couple was going to get some kind of GoFundMe or something, out of the,
Oh, okay.
out of the whole thing.
That
That's
makes
an
sense.
interesting take. I hadn't thought
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah, that's
makes sense.
possible.
I think Papini did, actually, if I remember correctly. She may have gotten some GoFundMe money.
Well, and I don't recall has a good comment. They say truth is stranger than fiction, and that's such a great point.
Kidding.
Katie, did it. Any wrap-up comments for you? Last comments to make about episode 1 or in anything?
I mean, no, I find myself trying to figure out how Andrea was involved in it and having tunnel vision that way. So
I'm with you. I think I feel like, how did they get how did they get dropped off? Did they walk there? How did they physically get to the house if they left in Aaron's car? I kind of understand why they would leave in Aaron's car, because then if anyone sees them leaving, they can be like, oh, it's only his car. But a camera could catch you walking in. A camera could catch you getting dropped off in a van or something. Like,
right.
I just don't understand how they got to the house so easily, got in so easily, got out so easily, and then all that stuff surrounding Andrea. I'm with you. That's where my big black hole is in the first episode.
Yeah. Well, I guess the discussion will get better as the weirdness goes on here, and we talk about the next 3. So it's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for coming. Appreciate you joining, and I hope that you come back again.
I will.
And
thank you.
That goes for everybody out there in chat. I appreciate you guys coming and joining. I think we had about 20 people at one point in time, so that's awesome. Appreciate you guys out there in the internet land. I did post a link to, I'm not certain that this will be the next documentary that we will cover, but down the road, maybe 2 or 3, or we started looking at the documentary The Confessions, and so I put a link in the chat. The Confessions is about the Norfolk Four, with these 4 gentlemen who falsely confessed to a rape and murder. And that is available for free on YouTube. And in a future episode, next week, we're going to be talking about American Nightmare episode 2. But in a future coming up episode, we're going to talk about The Confessions. So just to give you guys a little bit more homework, I don't want to put too much on your plate, but watching documentaries seems to be something you guys don't have a problem with doing. So
and the Confessions is only an hour and 23 minutes long. It's one thing, one package. So
yeah, it's one documentary, hour and 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So that one you can just watch it.
It's a great story. Yeah,
it is.
It is a great story. It's alarming.
I'm anxious to do Outcry.
Which one is Outcry?
Oh
It's
my God!
it's the Gregory Kelly case out of Texas, where he was a standout football player, scholarship, and he gets accused of high school. He gets accused of sexually assaulting a couple little kids, at this home daycare where he's living with his best friend to finish out his senior year. It's just a bizarre um,
It is
story.
yeah. You've never seen that?
I have not seen that one yet.
It's on
Yeah.
Showtime.
Excellent.
I think it's
Showtime,
on
yeah.
the Discovery Plus or Paramount Plus is what it is now.
That's right. Showtime. That's where you can actually watch it.
Yeah, it's 4 parts.
5
That's
Oh,
definitely
5 parts. Okay.
5
All right,
parts.
I don't know if I can. I probably can find it.
It's freaking
I'm
hard.
gonna drop.
I can take care of that, Joe.
Okay. I'm gonna drop a link to the Discord just to remember that I have a Discord open, and then this one has a room for Documentary Club in there. If you guys want to post the next or comment in the video, that's just as good. If you comment in the video what documentary you guys want to cover next, I'm keeping a list going, and that is going to be right on Outcry
Okay,
about
cool.
Gregory Kelly. Wow. Okay, so starting to pile up the homework out there, guys. I don't want to overwhelm you, but definitely we might have to. So that's a 4-part, you said? 4-part documentary? Definitely
5.
have to-
It's 5 parts.
5-part documentary. Okay, cool. So we'll have to figure out how we can get together and watch that. And, as the first crack at this, there's a couple different ways we were thinking about going about this. Should we just have a premiere? Should we get together and watch them? Should we, try to watch some of it together and then talk about it? So, we're still kind of in flux. We're still finding our way. I hope, my goal is to always make, every iteration, every, little series that we do a little bit better than the next one. So I'm always looking for your evaluation and feedback so we can make this better and more fun and more enjoyable. But I had a really good time. I really enjoyed doing this. I like watching crime documentaries, and then I usually have a lot to say about that afterwards. And so thank you guys for joining here. And want to say thanks to Jack and Susan and Katie for joining today. And that's it for today. This has been Dot Club Live. We'll see you guys on the next one. Thanks so much.